Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're driving straight into the beating heart of a nation to answer one huge question: why Argentina loves football so profoundly. I mean, we're not just looking at tactics or stats here. We're talking about a quasi-religious passion. We're talking about the absolute, crushing burden of destiny that rests on anyone wearing that famous sky blue and white jersey. By the time we wrap up, you'll see exactly why, over there, a simple game literally becomes a national faith.
Let's kick things off with a massive statement from the man himself, Lionel Messi, right after winning the 2022 World Cup. He said, and I quote, "I had something that I knew that God wanted me to be world champion, that he was going to give it to me." Just let that sink in. He didn't say he hoped to win or that they trained really hard. He said he knew God wanted him to be champion. That perfectly captures how football in Argentina isn't just a sport. It's viewed completely through the lens of divine destiny. Victory isn't just earned, it's practically written in the stars.
To really wrap our heads around this, we have to talk about Argentinidad. This is the very essence of being Argentine, and it is a profound cultural identity that is deeply, intricately intertwined with a fervent, almost religious devotion to football. When you see 5 million fans absolutely flooding the streets of Buenos Aires after a win, you aren't just looking at happy sports fans. No way. You are witnessing a massive cultural ecstasy, a shared communion that defines the very soul of the country.
Section 1. Two gods, Maradona and Messi. Okay, to really understand Argentine football, we have to look at the dynamic between these two monumental figures.
It's fascinating because there is a stark cultural contrast between these two icons. On one hand, you have Diego Maradona. He was aggressive, wore his heart on his sleeve, and basically set this fierce, fiery benchmark for generations of players. He was the literal embodiment of the nation's spirit. Then on the other hand, you have Lionel Messi. For so much of his career, Messi was seen as the quiet outsider, He moved to Barcelona when he was just 13 years old, and historically, he just didn't have that traditional, confrontational aggression that defined previous Argentine legends.
So, the crucial point is balancing that cultural mythology with the hard facts. Their personalities are night and day, sure, but look at what they achieved. Maradona won the World Cup in 1986. Decades later, Messi finally matches him in 2022. But to put that into perspective, it took a staggering 207 caps and 125 goals to get there. Two vastly different journeys, but they both reached identical ultimate glory.
And the reverence for Maradona in Argentina is just next level. Take this quote from former head coach Marcelo Bielsa. "When you see a beautiful church, you are taken back. This was a similar feeling I had when Diego scored." I mean, comparing a football goal to the awe of standing in a beautiful church, that tells you everything you need to know about how this sport is worshipped and the impossible, almost sacred standard that was set for Messi to follow.
Section 2. The demand to be Argentinian. This brings us to the intense national expectation that built into a deep psychodrama surrounding Messi for nearly 2 decades.
Because just being a great player wasn't enough. For years, the public and the press demanded that Messi act more Argentinian. They practically begged for the aggression of Maradona. Well, in Qatar, they finally got it. During an incredibly heated quarterfinal against the Netherlands, we saw a usually mild-mannered Messi fiercely front up to his opponents. He famously threw out the insult, "Que miras, bobo?" or "What are you looking at, dummy?" to Dutch forward Wout Weghorst. And man, that newfound belligerence was celebrated back home. It was the moment he truly tapped into the wilder, grittier side of Argentinidad.
We really have to acknowledge the unbelievable burden placed on his shoulders. Think about the psychological weight here. He leaves home at 13. He's constantly cast as an outsider. He carries the agonizing scars of losing 4 major finals, including that heartbreaking 2014 World Cup loss to Germany. For years, he is living right in the shadow of 1986, facing the suffocating pressure to fulfill a national script that he didn't even write. Section 3. The greatest final ever played. All of this narrative, the struggle, the expectation, the identity, it all culminates in the 2022 World Cup final against France.
Let's retrace the absolute emotional roller coaster of this match, because it is literally a 120-minute cinematic distillation of Argentina's historic suffering and ultimate triumph. For 79 minutes, they're in total control. Messi sinks a penalty at 23 minutes, Di Maria scores a gorgeous chip at 36 minutes. The trophy's basically in the bag, right? But then an unbelievable, reality-shattering French resurgence begins. Mbappe scores a sudden penalty at the 80-minute mark and a devastating volley right after at 81. In extra time, Messi somehow claws back the lead, only for Mbappe to equalize again with 2 minutes left on the clock. It is an absolute opera of triumph and despair.
97 seconds. That is the exact, heart-stopping amount of time it took for Kylian Mbappé to completely erase Argentina's 2-goal lead. In under 2 minutes, the entire tournament script was torn up, plunging a wildly hopeful nation right back into a state of historic panic. Talk about testing the absolute limits of Argentinidad.
But then, destiny intervenes. We're in the final, ticking seconds of normal time, a 90 plus 5-minute miracle. French substitute Randal Colomouani breaks totally free, one-on-one. A goal here ends it. But Argentine goalkeeper Emiliano Martínez makes this sprawling, point-blank save. It is, without a doubt, arguably the most important save in World Cup history. He single-handedly kept the prophecy alive.
So after extra time, it all comes down to penalties, and the climax of this shootout was scripted by fate itself. Step 1. Mentally survive Mbappe's historic 118th minute hat trick. Step 2. Rely on Martínez once again, who heroically saves Kingsley Coman's penalty. And Step 3. Gonzalo Montiel steps up. This is the exact same player whose handballs conceded 2 penalties earlier in the match. And what does he do? He sinks the winning shot for a cathartic 4-2 shootout victory. Justice and destiny finally served.
Section 4. A destiny finally fulfilled. Because when that final whistle blew in Lusail, it was so much more than just a sporting victory.
It was the completion of a quasi-religious prophecy, one foretold by the old god himself. Years prior, Maradona had literally said, "I have seen the player who will inherit my place in Argentina football, and his name is Lionel Messi." From the very beginning, a clear narrative was set. Messi had to collect this torch to finish his world-wearied journey. The 2022 victory was the exact moment that torch was finally, undeniably passed.
And what's beautiful is that this triumph was a total collective obsession. Just look at the squad. You've got young guys like Alexis Mac Allister at 23, Enzo Fernández at 21, Julián Álvarez at 22, and even Emiliano Martínez at 30. They spoke openly about their shared mission. They weren't just trying to win the World Cup for themselves. No, they felt this immense, overwhelming responsibility to win it specifically for their idol. They wanted to finish Lionel Messi's story. That right there is the ultimate expression of how much Argentina loves this sport.
So now that this unbelievable chapter of passion, pressure, and Argentinidad is perfectly closed, and the 2 greatest players in history sit side by side in the Pantheon, it leaves us with one massive question. With destiny fulfilled, who is going to inherit the altar of Argentine football next? Who will be the next figure burdened and blessed to become the god of this beautiful religion? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I hope it gave you a whole new perspective on this incredible cultural phenomenon.